just how far we'll go.
Hi everyone, welcome to Smack Reviews. If you love our honest reviews, smack that subscribe button so you never miss out. When I first heard the news that Moana would be getting a sequel, I was excited. But when I saw that it was initially supposed to be a series back in 2020, and in February of 2024, it was repurposed into a theatrical sequel, which was then released in the same year of this announcement. That's already a huge concern to me. I imagine the time between February and its release date that the focus was on trimming down the runtime and upscaling the animation and artwork to look appropriate for a theater release. Keep this in mind. If you're planning on watching and it becomes easy to tell that this show was meant to be at least 5 or 6 episodes long, so let's get into what we thought about Moana 2.
The plot of the story takes place 3 years after the events of the first movie. Moana has been exploring the islands around her home island, hoping to find other communities but with no luck. She learns that there's an island Motufetu was sunk to the bottom of the ocean by an evil storm god named Nalu, which connected all of the communities across the ocean. Moana then gets a warning that her home island is in danger and must journey across the ocean once again to keep her home safe by reaching Motufetu. She's not alone since she has a crew of 3 other people traveling with her, but these characters were unnecessary. They consisted of this one guy who was a huge Maui fanboy, an old man that's a farmer, and this one girl that's an engineer that knows how to do repairs. Out of these 3 characters, the only one I even somewhat liked was the Maui fanboy, and what I wish they had done is combine all 3 characters into one that possessed all their skills, and the movie still would have played out the same. I'm not sure why the decision was made for her to have a crew when they were hardly useful to the plot outside of a few scenes that I can think of from the top of my head. But in those same scenes, they could have easily been replaced with Moana instead.
We see that Moana has a little sister, Samia, and while she wasn't that important to the story, I wish that she was. I would have loved to have seen her successfully sneak onto the canoe with Moana, and maybe it would have been interesting watching Moana care for her sister while facing the dangers of the ocean. Samia and Maui's interactions would have for sure added more humor to this movie. Speaking of Maui, he's of course in this movie, but he doesn't reunite with Moana until a little over halfway into the movie, which is disappointing. Maui didn't play as big of a role here, probably to put more focus on Moana, but unlike the first movie, because she didn't deal with any inner turmoil like in the first movie. The only conflict she faced was if she could reach the sunken island and touch it. There's also this character named Matangi that probably could have been more interesting but was short-lived. She showed up for a quick song and interacted with Moana before we never see her again. She does show up again in a post-credit scene, which is weird since that's more of a Marvel thing, not really something they do for a Disney animated movie. The songs that were sung in this movie weren't entirely bad, but they weren't memorable. The new songs are trying too hard to be just like the songs from the previous movie, even doing some of the same things like when Moana is walking up the steps of the mountain. She does that again here. The writer that wrote the songs in the first movie had no part in any of these new songs, and it really shows. These new songwriters are trying hard to emulate the songs from before. The only song I thought was okay was Matangi's song, but that's about it. They don't come close to being as good as You're Welcome and Shiny. I still think How Far I'll Go was the best song from the first movie. I've seen some complaints about the visuals, including the water and how it didn't look as appealing, but if you look past all that stuff, I think the movie looks fine. My favorite moment was when Moana dived underwater to touch the sunken island of Motufetu, and a few other scenes too. Despite the many problems that this movie has, it should be to no one's surprise that this movie is going to easily do well in the box office, and we're bound to get Moana 3 at some point. Since Moana 2 was supposed to be a series, maybe for Moana 3, they should realize right off the bat that it should be a movie, and from there, it'll receive the love and attention that this franchise deserves. I'm optimistic that if it does happen, it'll be as good as the first one. At least I hope so. Overall, Moana 2 wasn't bad, but it was okay at best. I actually would have preferred if the movie had been longer, since it really felt like it wanted to tell much more story as a series, but had to cut out a lot of stuff to lower its runtime. Not much happened in this movie, and it saddens me that this is average at best. The first Moana is still one of my favorite movies from Disney, and I'm concerned for the future of Disney, since they're already working on the live-action Moana movie that's going to be released in 2026, which still doesn't make sense to me, since this franchise is not old in the slightest. But it seems Disney will do anything they can to make a quick buck, even if it means sacrificing high-quality stories that they were known for. Make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Bye!